the little crowned heir who used love to escape her loneliness. It circled a dead star that gave no light and no heat. Around it, space was wide and empty. No ships passed by. No signals moved through the silence. Only old metal walls and broken towers looked out at endless black. Inside the palace lived a small girl. Her name was Luma. She was the only living person in that giant place. The halls were long and cold. The ceilings were high and full of dust. Old banners hung from the walls, faded and torn. When she walked, her soft steps echoed again and again, as if the palace itself was answering her. On her head she wore a small silver crown. It was too big for her. It slid down when she moved too fast, so she often held it with one hand. The crown was old, older than any story she knew. Thin lines of light moved inside the metal, like stars trapped in silver. She did not remember the day she first wore it. She did not remember her parents. All she knew was that the crown must never leave her head. The palace told her that. The palace spoke through a machine. The machine was a tall metal figure with heavy arms and a round glass eye that shone with pale blue light. Its name was Bryn. It was a defense robot built to protect the royal family long ago. Now it protected only Luma. "Return to your room," Bryn often said in a slow, calm voice. "The outer halls are not safe." But Luma liked the outer halls. They were quiet, and quiet felt honest. In her room, the old walls showed moving pictures of happy people she did not know. They laughed and walked through bright gardens. Sometimes they wore crowns, too. Those pictures made her chest hurt, so she walked the empty halls instead. Every day she followed the same path. She passed the great window that looked out at the dead star. She passed the long table where no one ate. She passed the closed doors that never opened no matter how hard she pushed. Sometimes she talked to the walls. "Good morning," she would say. Her voice came back to her from far away. "Morning, morning, morning." It felt almost like someone answered. One day, as she stood by the great window, something new appeared in the black sky. At first it was only a tiny white dot. Then it grew brighter. Then it broke apart into sparks of fire. A ship. It was falling. Luma pressed both hands to the cold glass. Her breath made a small cloud in front of her face. The ship did not slow down. It came fast, spinning, trailing smoke and light. It passed the palace and dropped toward the rocky moon below. A flash filled the darkness. Then silence returned. Luma's heart beat fast. She had never seen another ship so close before. "Bryn," she whispered. The heavy steps of metal feet sounded behind her. "I have seen the crash," Bryn said. "Unknown vessel." No signal, no request for help. "Someone could be hurt," Luma said. "Correct," Bryn answered. "They could also be dangerous." Luma turned and looked up at the tall machine. Its blue eye looked back without feeling. "Can we go see?" "No," Bryn said at once. "The heir must remain inside the palace." Luma looked down at her small hands. They shook a little. "Heir," she repeated softly.
She did not like that word. It felt lonely.
She looked back at the black sky. Smoke still rose from the far side of the moon. "He might be alone," she said. Bryn was silent for a long moment. "Alone is safe," Bryn said at last. Luma closed her eyes. Alone was not safe. Alone was cold. Alone was long days and longer nights and talking to walls that only repeated her words. She opened her eyes again, and this time there was a quiet strength inside them. "We are going," she said. Bryn did not move. "The heir must not leave," the machine replied. Luma lifted her small chin. The silver crown caught the pale light from Bryn's eye. "I am the heir," she said, "and I am going." For the first time since she could remember, Bryn did not answer right away. Then the robot slowly turned toward the hangar doors at the end of the hall. "I will prepare a shuttle," Bryn said. The shuttle was small and old, but it still worked. Its metal skin was scratched and dark. Luma sat in the front seat with straps across her chest. Bryn stood behind her, one heavy hand on the control rail. The doors of the palace opened. Space waited outside, endless and silent. The shuttle moved forward and drifted away from the palace. The giant structure grew smaller behind them, like a stone crown floating in darkness. They flew down to the moon. The crash site burned in the gray dust. Broken pieces of the ship were spread across a wide scar in the ground. Smoke rose in thin lines that twisted in the weak gravity. The shuttle landed a short distance away. "Remain inside," Bryn ordered. Luma shook her head and opened her straps before the machine could stop her. The outer door hissed open. Cold air rushed in. She stepped down onto the dusty rock. The sky above her was full of stars. The dead sun hung far away, a dark circle against deeper black. She walked toward the broken ship. Metal creaked. Fire flickered inside torn walls. Something groaned in the windless air. Then she heard a sound that was not metal, a soft, painful breath. "Bryn," she whispered, "someone is there." The robot moved ahead of her, scanning with its blue eye. It pushed aside a fallen panel and bent low. "There is a human," Bryn said. "Male, severe injuries. Low-life signs." Luma stepped closer. Through the smoke she saw him. He lay trapped under a bent beam of metal. His face was pale. Blood marked his clothes. One arm was twisted at a wrong angle. His eyes were closed, but his chest moved in weak, shallow breaths. He was real. Not a picture on a wall, not a voice in an old recording. A real person.
"Help him," Luma said at once. Bryn's eye dimmed for a moment.
"This human is unknown," the robot replied. "He could be a threat to the air." "He is hurt," Luma said. "He could harm you." Luma stepped past the robot and knelt beside the stranger. His skin was cold through her fingers. "He is alone," she said. Bryn reached out and lifted the heavy beam as if it weighed nothing. Luma carefully pulled the man free. He did not wake, but he breathed a little easier. "Returning to the palace," Bryn said. Luma nodded and held the man's hand all the way back to the shuttle. When the palace doors closed behind them, something changed. The empty halls did not feel the same. They were still silent, but the silence was waiting now. The man lay in a small white room, filled with soft light and quiet machines, tubes and wires connected to his body. The palace medical system hummed gently as it worked to save him. Luma sat beside the bed. She did not leave. Hours passed. Bryn stood by the door, watching both the hall and the stranger. "He will live," the robot said at last. Luma let out a breath she did not know she was holding. "What is his name?" she asked. "Unknown." Luma looked at his still face. "Then we will ask him when he wakes," she said softly. She leaned closer. "You are not alone," she whispered to him. Far away in the darkness of space, small shapes moved. Long, thin ships with sharp wings and black hulls drifted near the edge of the system. Their sensors reached out like cold fingers. Old signals from the palace brushed against them. Lights blinked inside the alien vessels. A message passed from ship to ship. Something lost had been found. Back inside the palace, the machines began to wake from long sleep. Old systems turned on. Hidden antennas rose from deep towers. A faint pulse moved outward into the galaxy. Luma did not see any of this. She was still sitting by the bed, holding the stranger's hand. For the first time in her life, she felt the quiet change around her. The palace was no longer only hers. And somewhere in the dark, others were coming. The stranger slowly opened his eyes. The room was quiet except for the gentle hum of the palace machines. Soft white light bathed his pale face. Luma sat beside him, her small silver crown catching the glow. He tried to speak, but only a weak sound came. Luma tilted her head, listening. "Take your time," she said softly. "You are safe here." He blinked again, trying to make sense of the tall metal figure standing silently at the door. Bryn's blue eyes scanned him continuously, measuring, calculating, waiting. The stranger's hand moved weakly, brushing the blanket. Luma reached out, holding his fingers gently. "What is your name?" she asked. He tried again. His voice was hoarse. Ian, he whispered. "Ryan," she repeated. It felt strange hearing the name aloud. "You are safe now." Rian tried to sit up, but pain made him fall back. Luma held him steady. Bryn came closer, tilting its head. Its metal fingers hovered above a control panel. "His injuries are extensive. Recovery will be slow. Vital signs are stabilizing, but he is vulnerable. I will stay with him," Luma said firmly. She did not like the cold, mechanical tone of Bryn. Machines did not feel. They only calculated. Outside the palace, space remained silent. The signal from the crashed shuttle had spread farther than Luma knew. Traders, wanderers, and old explorers had noticed it. Some were curious, some were wary. A few set course for the distant dead star, not knowing what awaited them. Inside, Luma helped Rian slowly drink water. He coughed and choked at first, but she was patient. For the first time in years, she felt the warmth of someone else's presence. It was strange and fragile, like the first sun after a long winter. Rian tried to speak again. "Where am I?" "You are in my home," Luma said. "The Palace of the Lost Crown." He tried to smile, but pain twisted his face.
"I thought no one was left."
"You are not alone," she said. Her voice shook slightly.
No one should ever be alone. Bryn did not move. Its eye glowed steadily, watching both of them.
"Unknown human detected," it said finally. "He may not be trustworthy."
"He may be dangerous. He may be the cause of destruction." "He is hurt," Luma said. "That is enough reason to help him." Rayanne looked around the room. He saw the palace walls, tall and clean, with faint shadows moving from the machines. "This place," he whispered. "It is
"Ancient."
Yes, Luma said.
"It was built a long time ago. A kingdom once lived here."
"Now, only I remain." Ryan's eyes widened. You are alone?" Luma nodded.
I was.
"Until you came." He tried to sit up again, more carefully this time. "Why?" "Help me, because I cannot watch someone suffer," she said simply. "Because no one should feel what I felt alone. Because," she paused, "because I am the heir. And an heir must protect, even if they are small." Ryan closed his eyes, exhausted. "You are brave," he said softly. "You are hurt," she reminded him gently. "Focus on healing. I will be brave for both of us." Days passed. Rian's strength slowly returned. Luma helped him walk through the silent halls. Bryn continued to observe, calculating risks, but not intervening unless necessary. Outside, the distant ships that had noticed the palace began to move closer. One was a trader, small and simple, named Taris. Another was an engineer called Nela. A retired soldier, Doran, also turned his ship toward the signal, curious and cautious. Inside the palace, Rian explored quietly. He discovered halls that stretched longer than he could imagine, with statues of humans and alien allies alike. Gardens were dry and empty, but the walls told stories of past celebrations, meetings, and treaties. He learned that Luma's family had once united humans across many worlds without using fear. They had won respect through kindness, trust, and courage. "Why did your family fall?" Ryan asked one evening as they watched the pale light of the dead star spill through the broken windows. "Because they stopped caring," Luma said. "Because people forgot that power is nothing without love." Rian nodded slowly. He was impressed by the child's wisdom. "And you want to prepare for this?"
Continue it.
"Yes," she said firmly. "I will not hide any more."
I will not be alone, and I will not let the galaxy forget what humans can do when they care for one another.
Bryn interrupted. Unknown fleet detected. Possible threat approaching.
Luma turned her gaze to the distant dots in space.
Then we must prepare, she said.
But not for war.
Rian frowned. Then what?
Hope, Luma said. We prepare for hope. The next day, the first visitor arrived. Taurus, the trader, entered the palace airlock cautiously. He was rugged, with eyes that had seen both kindness and cruelty. Luma greeted him with a small smile. She offered food and warmth, even though they had never met. Who are you? Taurus asked, surprised by the child's calm courage. I am Luma, she said simply.
And this is your chance to stop being alone.
Taurus hesitated. He was used to danger, to traps, to people asking for payment or lying. But Luma's eyes were different. They held honesty and hope. He accepted her invitation, setting down his small bag carefully.
You do not fear me?
He asked. I do not fear anyone, Luma said. I only fear a lonely heart. Inside, Rian watched the meeting. He understood then that Luma's power was not in the crown or in the palace. It was in the way she made people trust her. It was in the way she used love instead of weapons. The next visitors were Neela and Doran. Neela arrived first, her ship quiet and small, but her mind sharp. She studied the palace systems, the broken gardens, and the silent corridors. Doran followed, his uniform worn, his hand steady. He had once commanded fleets, but here he was merely a human, drawn by a message he did not understand fully. All of them felt the same thing. This child, small and alone, held a quiet strength that was bigger than armies. But far away, in the black spaces beyond the dead star, Varric watched. He was an alien commander with cold scales and sharper eyes than any human could imagine. He had been tracking signs of the lost human crown for years. Now he detected the awakening signal of the palace. His thin lips curled. The air is alive, he hissed. Prepare the hunters, prepare the fleet. No one will escape this time.
Inside the palace, Luma remained unaware.
She prepared the rooms for her guests, sharing meals and laughter, teaching simple games that made the old halls feel alive. She showed Rian how to use the palace's small library and taught Taurus, Neela, and Doran the importance of trust. Bryn watched, its blue eyes steady, but its calculations showing rising concern. It had scanned Varric's fleet. It had calculated probabilities of survival, but it also knew something Luma had understood for a long time. Sometimes the strongest force in the galaxy was not weapons. It was courage, hope, and care. The palace hummed with life. Broken halls echoed laughter. Dusty floors felt steps of new people. Windows reflected faces full of curiosity, fear, and wonder. And above all, Luma kept her small silver crown firmly on her head. Not because it made her ruler, but because it reminded her of what she must do. Bring life to a lonely galaxy, piece by piece, heart by heart. At night she looked out the great window. The dead star gave no warmth, but the distant dots of ships moving toward them felt like sparks of possibility. She held Rian's hand. He was stronger now, able to walk beside her through the long corridors. We will not hide any more, she said softly. Rian nodded. You are right. This world, or any world, needs hope more than fear. Outside, Varric's ships advanced slowly, silent and patient. But inside the palace, laughter grew louder. Plans were whispered. Steps were hurried. Hearts beat with courage. The galaxy had taken notice. The little crowned heir had begun her first act of true rebellion, not with weapons, but with love. And in that quiet, a strange thing happened. Bryn's eye blinked slowly, not calculating, not scanning, but almost agreeing. Perhaps even it felt that for the first time the heir was no longer alone. The palace had never been so full of life. Luma walked through the long corridors with Rian beside her. Taras followed, carrying small supplies he had scavenged from his ship. Neela examined broken machines and flickering screens. Doran kept watch at the doors, his sharp eyes scanning for any sign of danger. Even Bryn moved differently now. Its heavy steps were slower, almost careful, as if it knew the palace had changed. It still calculated risks, but it no longer blocked every small action. It observed Luma, waiting for her to make choices rather than dictating them. For the first time, Luma felt the warmth of companions. She laughed at small jokes Rian whispered. She smiled at Taras's clumsy attempts to organize supplies. Neela shared stories of distant planets she had visited. Doran, silent most of the time, told tales of battles he had fought, though he spoke without pride or hate. The palace echoed with life. But far beyond the dead star, in the empty reaches of space, eyes watched. Barak's fleet advanced slowly, silent as shadows. His ships were long and black, shaped like sharp blades ready to pierce the void. His mind was cold and calculating. He had destroyed entire worlds before, and now he sought one lost heir. "We will crush them before they even understand," he hissed, his voice vibrating through the control room of his flagship. His tentacle-like fingers tapped the console. "No human will rise from the ashes. No one will challenge me again." Inside the palace, Luma had no knowledge of the fleet approaching. Her world was small and full of immediate things, helping Rion stand, teaching Taras to use the old kitchen machines, watching Nella repair the ancient communication panels. She moved with care, her small hands steady despite the size of the palace. Every act she did was gentle, deliberate. Every word she spoke brought a sense of safety that had been absent for centuries. One evening, Luma led Rian to the observation hall. The walls were lined with broken telescopes and dusty screens that once monitored distant stars. She touched the glass, staring out at the tiny points of light scattered in the black. "Those are other ships," Rian said. His voice was stronger now, but still soft.
They are coming. People?
Luma asked. Her heart raced. "Yes. Humans, aliens, travelers. They are responding to your message." "My message?" Luma asked, confused.
You sent a signal, Rian explained. Even before we knew it, it traveled far.
People who feel alone. People who need hope. They are coming. Luma's small chest expanded. She had wanted company, yes, but she had not imagined it like this. The stars were no longer empty. Light flickered as distant shapes moved toward her. "They are not soldiers," she said softly. "They are people like me." Rian nodded. "And they trust you. Even without meeting you, they believe in what you stand for." The next morning, the first ship arrived. It floated silently above the palace platform, small and simple. The ramp lowered. A figure stepped out, a human with dark hair, sharp eyes, and a nervous step. His name was Farron. He carried nothing but a small pack and a heavy look on his face.
"I saw the signal," he said quietly, almost afraid to speak.
I do not know why, but I had to come."
Luma's small hand reached out. "You are safe here," she said. "You do not need to fear." Farron blinked, looking at the palace around him. The halls, the towers, the broken gardens. They seemed too big for a child. Too big for anyone. "I have never seen anything like this," he whispered.
"You are not alone anymore," Luma said.
"That is enough." Over the next few days, more ships arrived. One brought Kira, a young engineer who repaired the palace's old defense systems. Another brought Malon, a quiet historian who spent hours studying the faded murals and old records. Each new person added life to the palace. Luma's simple smile and gentle words turned fear into trust. But Varric noticed. His scanners tracked every ship entering the Dead Star system. He tapped his clawed fingers against the console. "They gather," he said. "They will not stop. Send the hunters. Tear the palace apart before the heir can rally them." Back in the palace, Rian tried to teach the newcomers how to navigate the halls safely. Bryn watched them all, silently calculating threats. The palace was no longer empty. but its corridors had become complex. Every visitor brought risk, but Luma moved among them as if the palace itself had grown warm and safe. One afternoon, as Luma showed Malon a faded map of the ancient human empire, a low alarm echoed through the palace. Bryn's blue eye glowed brighter than ever. "Unknown fleet approaching," it announced. "Hostile vessels detected. Probability of attack high." Luma's small hand rested on the map. She did not panic. "We will not hide," she said. "We will prepare, but not for war." Rian frowned. "How?" "We are only a few humans in a huge palace." "You do not understand," Luma said softly. "We have more than weapons. We have hope. We have hearts that will not give up. That is more powerful than any ship." The first wave of Varric's hunters arrived. Sharp, black vessels circled the palace, scanning every angle. Bryn deployed defensive drones, but Luma stopped them. She raised her small hands. "Do not attack," she commanded. "We are not the enemy." Rian looked at her, amazed. "You trust them?" "Yes," Luma said simply. "We do not fight with fear. We fight with hope."
The hunters fired a warning shot.
A laser cut across the void, splashing sparks against the palace walls. Dust fell from high ceilings. Farron ducked. Kira grabbed a control panel. Doran stepped forward, his hands ready, but Luma did not move. She touched Bryn's arm. "We must speak to them," she said. Rian hesitated. "Speak? From here?"
"Yes," Luma said. "We send a message."
"We show them who we are, not with destruction, but with truth."
Bryn tilted its head, silent. "This may fail," it warned.
Luma's small face was firm. "Then we will try anyway." The palace's ancient communication system whirred to life. Screens lit up. Antennas rose slowly from broken towers. Luma placed her tiny hands on the console. She spoke into the transmitter. "I am Luma," she said, her voice calm but clear. "I am the last heir of a human family that once united many worlds.
I do not seek power. I do not seek war.
I only seek to end loneliness. Anyone who wishes to be heard, anyone who wishes to be safe, anyone who wishes for kindness, you may come. You will not be turned away."
The words traveled faster than any missile.
Across the void, the hunters hesitated. Their sensors picked up the message, and something unexpected happened. Some ships slowed. Their weapons did not fire. Some pilots tilted their heads, confused by a message of hope instead of commands. Inside the palace, Luma turned to Rian. "See? Fear is strong, yes, but it is not stronger than care." Rian's voice trembled with awe. You really believe that?" "I have no other choice," Luma said. "I will not be alone. I cannot let anyone else feel alone either." The next day, new ships appeared. They were small, simple vessels filled with humans and aliens alike. Traders, engineers, and ordinary travelers, all had heard Luma's words. Each ship that arrived added weight to the hope surrounding the palace. Luma greeted every newcomer with a smile, sharing meals, teaching games, and offering warmth. Varric's fleet watched in disbelief. They gather," he hissed. "They follow her. They listen to a child." The hunters fired again, but this time, hesitation slowed them. Not all obeyed Varric. Some ships did not move. Some turned away. The power of fear could not command hearts that had already been touched by hope. Inside the palace, Luma walked through the corridors, her crown glinting faintly. She touched each visitor lightly on the shoulder, greeted them with simple words, and shared a small meal or drink. She taught them to trust each other, to care for each other, and to find courage in kindness. Rian followed, helping those who were injured or weak. Farron carried supplies. Kira repaired broken machines. Doran watched the doors, guarding against danger, but even he felt the strange power growing in the palace. Bryn, silent but alert, calculated probabilities. It understood that Luma's power was not simple. It could not be measured by numbers or weapons. It was a force built on connection, courage, and love. Outside, Varric's fleet began to lose cohesion. Some ships stopped firing. Some pilots questioned orders. A spark of doubt grew in the heart of the alien commander. He had never faced an enemy like this, one that fought not with guns, but with trust. Inside the palace, Luma gathered everyone in the observation hall. She pointed to the stars. "Look," she said. "See how they come? They follow us not because of fear, but because they believe. They come because they hope. And that is stronger than anything in the galaxy." Ryan nodded. "You are right," he said. "The galaxy will remember this. Your courage will ripple farther than any fleet." Luma smiled. Her small hands touched the cold glass. "We are not alone anymore. We never will be alone again." And far beyond the palace in the black reaches of space, ships continued to arrive, drawn by the little crowned heir who used hope and kindness instead of weapons. Somewhere Varric prepared for another strike, but already doubt had planted itself among his ranks. Inside, Luma's silver crown caught the pale light of the dead star. The palace, once empty and silent, was alive with laughter, voices, and hearts that would not give up. The little crowned heir had begun to change the galaxy. The pale light of the dead star stretched across the palace halls. Luma walked quietly with Rian at her side. Outside, the signals of approaching ships grew stronger. Small lights flickered in the void, each one carrying hopes, fears, and hearts ready to follow her. Inside the observation hall, the group had gathered. Terrace arranged supplies. Kira worked on repairing broken communication arrays. Doran stood at the doors, eyes sharp, scanning the corridors. Farron leaned against a console, his dark eyes thoughtful. Malin read from an old record tracing the lines of past history, trying to understand how Luma's family had once ruled so peacefully. Bryn stood quietly near the walls. Its heavy metal body did not move much, but its blue eye followed every visitor, every action. Its mind ran calculations faster than any human could. The probability of attack, the probability of survival, the probability of the enemy ignoring them, all numbers and risks. But Luma did not care for probabilities. She only cared for what she could do.
"Another fleet approaches," Bryn said.
Its voice echoed softly. "Larger. Faster. Weapons armed. Probability of engagement high." Rian's brow furrowed.
Varric's main force?
"Yes," Bryn confirmed. "Hostile intent is certain. Defense systems will require full deployment if engaged." Luma's small hands rested on the railing of the observation hall. She looked out at the approaching dots of light. "We will not attack," she said. Rian turned to her. "We can't just sit here. They could destroy everything." "We do not fight with fear," Luma said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "We fight with hope. We fight with trust. That is our weapon." Terrace frowned. "Hope? Against a fleet that has destroyed planets?"
Yes, Luma said, because they will see it.
"Some of them will see it, and it will change them." Doran stepped forward.
Change them?
"This is war. This is not some story. Ships do not hesitate when their orders are clear."
But some will,
Luma said softly. "And those who hesitate will save lives." The fleet drew closer, black shapes against the void, sharp edges glinting faintly in the distant light. Varric's command ship led the group. It was massive, cruel in its design, a symbol of domination. Behind it, long lines of hunters followed, ready to strike. Inside the palace, Luma took a deep breath. She gathered the visitors in the hall. "We must act together," she said. "We cannot win by force, but we can show them who we are. We can show them that strength comes from hearts that care." Kira looked at her, eyes wide. "How do we do that?" "We send a message," Luma said. "Not a threat, not a command. We show them what it means to be human." Rian nodded slowly.
"You mean like the first message? Hope instead of fear?"
"Yes," Luma said. "We will reach their hearts first, and their weapons second. Bryn, prepare the communication core." The ancient machinery of the palace hummed to life. Panels glowed faintly. Antennas rose slowly from the towers. The palace, which had been silent for centuries, now vibrated with quiet energy. Farron stepped closer. "You really think this will work?" "I have to try," Luma said. "If we do not, everyone will remain alone, and that is worse than death." Bryn's blue eye blinked. Calculations indicate low probability of success against a fleet this size. Risk of attack during transmission is high. Luma placed her hands on the console. Her fingers were small but steady. "Then we trust the universe to hear more than numbers," she said. Outside, the first of Varroc's hunters moved closer, scanning the palace. Lasers hummed in the distance. The fleet was ready. Destruction seemed inevitable. Inside, Luma spoke into the transmitter.
I am Luma, last heir of the human line.
"I do not seek war. I do not seek power. I seek only to end loneliness. Anyone who feels alone, anyone who wishes for hope, you may come. You will not be turned away. Violence will not answer your fear. Kindness can." The signal traveled instantly. Across the void, some of Varroc's pilots blinked at the message. Confusion flashed in their eyes. This was not a command, not a threat, not a warning. It was simple, quiet, human truth. One small ship hesitated, another slowed. Some scanned again, unsure if their sensors had been hacked. Varroc hissed.
"They are ignoring me," he growled. "Engage them."
"Destroy the palace." Yet the hesitation spread. Doubt entered some of his pilots' hearts. They had never been confronted with something like this before. A child, a small human, sending words that reached them more than any weapon could. Inside, the palace shivered as if alive. Luma turned to Ryan. "Do you see?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said. "They are listening." Taris held his breath. "Some are not firing, they are hesitating." "Yes," Luma said. "We do not fight with fear. We fight with trust." The first friendly ships arrived then, small humans, wanderers, and travelers who had heard Luma's call. Their simple vessels floated between Varroc's hunters and the palace, forming a fragile shield. Each ship carried hope and courage. Each crew had left fear behind to follow her. Varroc's anger rose. "Attack them," he shouted. "They will die. They follow a child." Some of his pilots refused. They lowered weapons, confused by the flood of signals reaching them. One by one, a few turned their ships away. The strength of hope began to weaken the chains of fear in the fleet. Inside, Luma gathered everyone in the hall. She looked at their faces. They were scared, yes, but they believed. They trusted her. They had come because she had reached their hearts. "Prepare the outer ring," she said. "It is time to make a final broadcast. We will show everyone, even Varroc, the truth of what we can do." Kira and Taris moved quickly, working with the ancient machinery. Doran stood guard. Farron and Malin helped Luma coordinate the signal. Bryn guided them, silent but precise. Outside, the fleet moved closer. Varroc prepared a strike. Lasers hummed. Engines flared. A single blast could destroy the palace. Luma touched Bryn's arm. "We will not fire," she said. "We will show them hope." Rian frowned. "Even if it kills us?" Luma's eyes were steady. "If we use fear to survive, we die anyway. We survive because we give, not because we take. That is our strength." The outer ring activated. Its ancient systems hummed. Energy filled the palace towers. The air vibrated. Outside, the hunters and the approaching fleet paused, sensing the sudden pulse. Luma's voice traveled across every channel.
"I am Luma."
"I am small. I am alone no longer. And I call to all who have ever felt alone. Come to this palace. Trust me. We will care for you. We will not harm you. And anyone who seeks only fear or war, they will see that love is stronger than their weapons." The signal rippled across the void. Ships slowed. Some turned. Some lowered weapons. The ripple of trust spread faster than lasers. The tension in the fleet was sudden, sharp, electric. Varric hissed.
Impossible! They are human!
They are children. Inside, Luma stood tall on a small platform in the observation hall. Her crown reflected pale light. She did not shout. She did not threaten. She spoke from the heart. And slowly, impossibly, the impossible began to happen. Some of Varric's ships powered down weapons. Hesitation spread like fire. Pilots looked at each other. Some began to retreat, unwilling to harm those who had done nothing wrong. Luma turned to Ryan. "It is working," she said softly. Rian nodded. "You are changing them." Without a fight, the palace hummed with life. The new arrivals, humans, wanderers, engineers, and travelers, formed a protective web around the palace. Each ship was small, fragile, but full of courage. Each crew had chosen hope over fear. Bryn's eye blinked slowly. Its calculations had failed to predict this outcome. The probability of survival had risen not from weapons, but from hearts. Luma looked at the approaching dots of light. "We are not alone," she said. "And now, neither is the galaxy." Varric's anger burned, but hesitation now ruled parts of his fleet. Some ships no longer obeyed. The first strike had failed before it began. Hope had met fear, and fear faltered. Inside, Luma gathered everyone for a quiet moment. "We have survived today not because of weapons, but because of trust, because of love, because of courage that does not fight with hate." Rian watched her, awe in his eyes. "You are, more than anyone could have imagined. You are the heir they feared, and yet you fight with kindness." "Yes," Luma said, "and that is how we will survive." The fleet outside moved, paused, and reconsidered. Ships from distant stars turned toward the palace. Lives had been touched by Luma's simple words. The little crowned heir had used hope, courage, and love to create a shield stronger than any metal. The battle had not begun. But already the galaxy had changed. The palace was alive. Its halls echoed with voices, laughter, and the soft hum of machinery. The floors, once cold and empty, now held the steady footsteps of humans, aliens, and travelers from far-off stars. Every corridor was full of energy, not from engines or weapons, but from life itself. Luma walked among them, small hands moving lightly over tables, consoles, and supplies. Her silver crown glinted faintly in the pale light of the dead star outside. She had become the center of the palace, not because she ruled, but because she had given hope to all who came. Rian moved beside her. His injuries were healed. His chest was steady, his step strong. He had learned to trust Luma, to follow her guidance, and to believe in what she could accomplish. He looked out at the observation screens, watching as distant ships approached. Some were small, fragile, and old, but each carried life, courage, and the willingness to help. Doran stood near the doors, his sharp eyes scanning the halls. Taris and Kira worked together to keep the palace running, organizing supplies, repairing broken machines, and coordinating communications. Malin studied old records, reading accounts of humans who had once traveled to distant worlds to bring peace, not fear. Bryn, heavy and silent, moved through the palace like a shadow. Its blue eyes scanned constantly, calculating probabilities, risks, and outcomes. Yet even it had begun to change. It no longer judged purely by numbers. It had learned, in its slow way, that the strength of humans could not always be measured. Luma had shown it that courage, kindness, and hope were forces greater than any weapon. Outside, the black shapes of Varric's fleet moved steadily toward the palace. The alien commander's scales reflected the dim light from the distant dead star. His ships were massive, cruel in design, each one ready to destroy. He had brought the full force of his hunters and long-range bombers. The humans had no chance. By every calculation, the palace should fall. But Luma did not see numbers. She saw hearts. She saw the small sparks of courage in each of her visitors. She knew that fear was strong, but hope was stronger. She had learned that even the cruelest hearts could hesitate, and hesitation could save lives. Brienne approached her quietly. "They are close," he said. "If they attack now, the palace may not survive." Luma's small hands rested on the railing of the observation hall. "Then we show them again," she said softly. "We show them who we are, not with weapons, but with truth." Kira, adjusting a panel, looked at her. "You mean another broadcast?" "Yes," Luma said. "We must reach every ship, every pilot, every heart that still fears. We must call them to see that they are not alone." Doran's voice was low and cautious. "Some will never listen. Some will fire anyway." "That is true," Luma said. "And some of them will, but enough will listen. Enough will hesitate. And hesitation can save us all." Bryn's blue eye blinked slowly. "Probability of survival remains low," it said. "Engagement is imminent. Defensive systems at maximum readiness." Luma placed her small hands on Bryn's arm. "We do not fight with fear," she said. "We fight with hope." Outside, Varric's fleet had formed a wide circle around the palace. Lasers glimmered faintly along the edges of the ships. Engines flared. The alien commander's long-clawed fingers tapped the control console impatiently. "Attack!" he hissed. "Destroy them before they can inspire more followers." The first shot flew through the void. A small laser beam cut across the empty space, striking a corner of the palace. Sparks flew. Dust fell from the ceilings. The sound of metal twisting echoed through the empty halls. Rian grabbed Luma's hand. "It has begun?" "No," she said calmly. "It has not begun. This is only a test. They still hesitate." The palace's ancient systems roared to life. Antennas lifted, panels glowed, and the outer ring prepared for transmission. Luma placed her hands on the console and spoke clearly, her voice carrying across every channel in the void. "I am Luma, last heir of the human line," she said. "I do not seek war. I do not seek power. I seek only to end loneliness. Anyone who has ever felt alone, anyone who wishes to be heard, anyone who wishes for hope, come to this palace. You will not be turned away. Violence will not answer your fear. Care will. Trust will. Love will. I call you to life, not to destruction." The message spread instantly. Across the fleet, some ships slowed. Their sensors detected the signal, the words, the tone. It was not a command, not a threat, not a warning. It was simple truth, a human heart reaching across the void. Some of Varric's pilots paused. Their engines hummed quietly. Weapons lowered. A few even turned away, uncertain, as the strength of Luma's words reached them. Inside the palace, Luma turned to Rian. "See?" she whispered. "Some have already chosen." "Yes," he said. "Even among the hunters, there is hesitation. They are hearing us." Taris and Kira worked rapidly, adjusting signals, making sure every approaching ship received Luma's broadcast. Doran remained vigilant, guarding the doors and corridors. Malin's eyes scanned the stars, noting each movement, each hesitation in the fleet. Then, a strange thing happened. From the far side of the system, more ships arrived. Not military vessels, but civilian crafts, explorers, traders, and travelers who had answered the call of hope. They formed a living shield around the palace, placing themselves between the attackers and Luma's home. Varric's anger rose. "Impossible," he hissed. "They are ordinary beings. They follow a child. Destroy them." Some of his pilots refused. They lowered weapons. Engines powered down. One by one, hesitation spread through the fleet. The strength of fear faltered when faced with courage and hope. Inside, Luma gathered everyone in the observation hall. She looked at their faces. They were scared, yes, but determined. They had chosen to trust her. They had chosen to follow hope instead of fear. "We prepare the outer ring for a final broadcast," she said. "It will reach every ship, every life in this system. We show them what humans can do when we care for each other." Rayan nodded. "And if they fire, then we will still have shown them hope," Luma said firmly.
Even if they strike, they will remember.
The palace hummed with energy. The outer ring glowed with pale light. Luma placed her hands on the controls. Her voice rang out across the void, calm but powerful. I call to all who feel alone, she said. To every heart that has ever feared the dark, that has ever felt lost, that has ever believed there is no one to help. You are not alone. We are here. We will care for you. We will protect you. And to those who follow only fear, we do not fight you with hatred. We fight you with courage, trust, and love. Witness this and see what humans can do when hearts are open. The broadcast spread faster than lasers. Ships slowed. Engines paused. Weapons powered down. Doubt entered the hearts of many. Hesitation became a shield stronger than any metal. Rian watched the screens, awe in his eyes. They listen, he said.
Your words, they are stopping them.
Yes, Luma said softly. Fear is strong, but hope is stronger.
And we are not alone anymore.
Outside, the approaching fleet wavered. Some ships turned.
Some stopped firing. The living shield of travelers, humans, and aliens remained between the palace and the hunters. Varric's command faltered. His anger burned, but his authority weakened as more ships refused to obey. Inside the palace, Luma moved among her companions, placing small hands on shoulders, speaking quietly to calm fear. She did not act like a ruler. She acted like a friend, a guide, a light in the darkness. The palace, once silent and empty, hummed with life. Visitors carried hope. Machines carried energy. Walls carried the stories of humans who had traveled and cared. And at the center of it all, Luma stood small and strong, her crown catching the pale light, her voice reaching farther than any weapon. The first wave of Varric's fleet had failed. Hesitation spread, uncertainty grew, and the power of hope had become a force no calculation could defeat. Luma looked out the observation window. We will survive, she whispered. Not because of weapons, not because of force, but because of hearts that choose to care. Rian placed a hand on hers. You are changing the galaxy, he said. One heart at a time. Yes, Luma said, and no one will ever be alone again. Outside, in the black void of space, ships began to respond. Some turned fully toward the palace, abandoning orders. Others powered down weapons, joining the growing tide of hope. The little crowned heir had begun a revolution, not of fire, but of courage, trust, and love. Varric's voice hissed through the comms.
Impossible! They will not obey!
Attack anyway. But hesitation had spread too far. Too many hearts had chosen to see beyond fear. And in that moment, Luma's small silver crown glinted brighter than any star. The battle had not yet begun, but the first victory was already theirs. The galaxy had seen a child stand unarmed, surrounded by those who trusted her, and still command more power than any fleet. And for the first time, Luma felt it. She was not alone. The palace was alive with movement. Luma moved through the halls with Rian, Taris, Kira, Doran, Farron, and Malin close behind. Every corridor carried voices, footsteps, and laughter. The pale light of the dead star spilled through the broken windows, glinting off Luma's silver crown. It seemed smaller yet heavier with meaning. The distant stars were crowded now with ships. Some were small travelers, wanderers, and explorers who had answered Luma's call. Others were remnants of Varric's fleet, still hesitant, still unsure if they should obey his orders or follow the unexpected courage of a child. Bryn moved through the halls silently, its heavy metal body reflecting the dim light. Its blue eye flicked constantly across the palace, monitoring life, energy, and movement. It calculated the strength of the defenders, the probability of survival, and the possible outcomes of engagement with Varric's fleet. But even Bryn, for all its machines, could not calculate the force that now filled the palace. Hope. Rian paused, looking out a high window at the ships in orbit. They are still coming, he said softly. Some follow her. Some still obey Varric. How will this end? Luma's small hands rested lightly on the windowsill. It will end not with destruction, she said, but with trust, with courage, with hearts that choose to care instead of fear. Taurus looked uncertain.
Even if Varric attacks directly, his main ships are massive?
We can't fight them. Then we don't fight, Luma said firmly. We show them. Dorn frowned. Show them? That won't stop weapons. That won't stop death. But it might stop the hearts of those wielding them, Luma said. Some hearts still choose. Bryn's eye focused on the distant black shapes. Hostile fleet approaching final orbit, it said. Probability of engagement is now extreme. Luma nodded. Then it is time. In the central hall, she gathered everyone. We must speak to them all, she said. Not as enemies, but as beings who have hope. We will reach the hearts that can still listen. That is our shield, our strength, and our power. Ryan watched her, awe in his eyes. You have changed so much already, yet the galaxy still waits for fear to rule. How will we reach everyone? Luma smiled faintly. We will not reach everyone. But we will reach enough. Enough to turn the tide. Enough to show that no one is alone if they choose to see it. Kira worked quickly, adjusting the palace's outer transmitter, connecting it to every signal array that could reach the approaching fleet. Taris carried supplies, Farron monitored communications, and Malin traced the paths of ships, marking which ones hesitated, which ones had yet to act. Doran stood guard at the door, silent and alert. Bryn hovered near the control panel, its calculations racing faster than any human mind could follow. Outside, the first of Varric's main ships entered firing range. Massive and black, they radiated menace and cold precision. Energy beams flared, cutting across the void. Sparks erupted from the edges of distant satellites. The pressure on the palace was immense. Yet Luma's hands remained steady. She spoke clearly into the transmitter.
I am Luma, she said, last heir of a line that once united many worlds.
I do not seek war. I do not seek conquest.
I seek only to end loneliness. Anyone who has ever felt alone, anyone who wishes for hope, anyone who wishes to be heard, you may come. You will not be turned away. Violence will not answer your fear. Care will, courage will, trust will. And hearts that choose love are stronger than the strongest fleet. The message spread instantly across the fleet. Engines slowed. Weapons powered down. Some ships paused, unsure. Others turned toward the palace, following the call of hope instead of the commands of fear. Varric hissed. Possible, he roared.
They are ordinary beings. They follow a child! Attack anyway!
But hesitation had spread like wildfire. The crews of many ships refused. They lowered their weapons. Engines cooled. One by one, more ships joined the growing shield of travelers, explorers, and wanderers who now circled the palace. Inside, Luma turned to Rion. See? Some of them already choose.
Yes, he said.
Even among the hunters, they hesitate. The first wave of attack came, but it was weaker than expected. Missiles flared and dissipated. Laser blasts missed by inches. Ships that should have obeyed Varric's orders had slowed, paused, or even turned away. The power of hesitation, fueled by hope, became a shield stronger than any armor. Luma moved among the people in the hall. She placed small hands on shoulders, spoke softly, and gave courage. Every human, every traveler, every alien began to feel the strength she offered. They were no longer afraid to make choices, no longer afraid to trust. Rion helped Farron monitor communications. They are listening, he said. The fleets that should be attacking, they are stopping. Yes, Luma said softly, because hearts can choose more than fear. The second wave of Varric's fleet approached, larger, faster, and armed with heavier weapons. But even now, hesitation spread. Some ships paused, some engines cooled. Doubt grew in the hearts of the commanders. Not all would fire on the palace. Not all would obey Varric's orders blindly. Luma's message rang through the void again, stronger, more confident. Look beyond fear. See beyond weapons. Witness hope. Witness what it means to care for life and trust one another. This palace stands not on power, but on courage, kindness, and hearts that choose hope. You may join us or you may turn away, but no one here will attack out of hatred.
We do not fight with fear, we fight with care.
Outside, the effect was immediate. More ships stopped firing. Engines slowed. Some turned completely to face the palace, abandoning the order to destroy it. The living shield of humans, travelers, and explorers grew larger, forming a circle of hope. Varric hissed in rage. His claws banged on the console. Impossible!
They follow a child!
Bryn's blue eye focused on the approaching commander ship.
Hostile command attempting strike, it said.
Probability of success extremely low. Target may hesitate.
And it did. One of Varric's pilots slowed, confused by the flood of hope.
Another turned. Another refused to fire. Hesitation became insurmountable. Luma's words had reached where weapons could not. Inside, Luma turned to Rian. "This is the moment," she said. "We do not destroy, we do not attack. We only show them the truth. Courage, hope, care. This is our weapon." The palace hummed with life. Every person inside acted with purpose. Some repaired broken systems. Some prepared messages to the fleets. Some brought supplies to those who had arrived injured or scared. Every act carried strength, not fear. Every small gesture became part of the shield. Varric's fleet began to fracture. Orders were ignored. Engines cooled. Weapons were powered down. His authority weakened with every hesitant pilot, every commander who refused to obey blindly. The alien commander hissed, frustrated beyond reason. Luma stepped onto the observation platform. Her small hands rested on the console. Her silver crown glinted. She spoke again, her voice calm, steady, and powerful. "I am Luma. I am small. I am not alone.
And neither are you. You may join us.
You may choose courage over fear. You may choose hope over destruction. The galaxy is wide. It has space for all who wish to care." The palace does not command. It invites. It protects. And it stands for every heart that refuses to give in to fear. The ripple spread farther than anyone could imagine. Ships slowed. Some turned toward the palace, joining the growing tide of hope. Others refused, but no one dared to fire recklessly. Hesitation had become the new force in the system. Varric hissed in rage.
"Impossible," he screamed. "They cannot defeat me with words."
And yet they had. Words, courage, and hope had created a shield stronger than weapons. His fleet fractured. His authority failed. His hunters refused orders. Engines cooled. Weapons powered down. Inside, Luma turned to Rian. "It is done," she whispered. "Yes," Rian said softly. "You have saved them, and us." The palace echoed with life. Laughter, footsteps, soft voices. The halls that had been empty for centuries were full. Travelers, humans, and aliens had come together. They were no longer alone. The little crowned heir had used love, hope, and courage to change the course of the galaxy. Bryn's blue eye blinked slowly, observing the living shield. Its calculations had failed to predict this outcome, but it understood it now. The strongest force in the galaxy was not fear, not weapons, not power. It was hearts that chose to care. Luma looked out at the stars, her small hands resting on the console. Ships that had once threatened them now floated quietly, some joining the circle of hope, some waiting to see the truth. The dead star outside was pale, cold, and silent, but the light inside the palace was warm, vibrant, and alive. Rian touched her shoulder.
"You have changed everything," he said.
"Not with armies, not with guns, but with love, with trust, with hope." "Yes," Luma said softly. "And now no one in the galaxy needs to be alone again. The little crown heir smiled. She had used love to escape her own loneliness. She had shared that love with others, and she had changed the galaxy forever. Outside, the stars were full of life, courage, and hearts that chose to care. Inside, the palace hummed, alive with hope, and the future had finally begun.